Hello, YouTube. It's your boy, the Passport Bro Wingman, coming at you again with another YouTube video. And the title of this video is called Lazy Passport Bros. You don't speak foreign languages. How can you date foreign chicas? Says Naysayer. And so the way this video came about was I noticed a lot of times in the comment section, and not just in my videos, but in other people's videos, one of the critiques have been that a lot of us don't really speak the language, and as a result, it will be, it should be very difficult for us to, date some of the women, talk to a lot of women, and get intimate with them, and those kind of things. So I kind of wanted to touch a little bit on that, and kind of talk about the situation. So starting off, first off, consider that a lot of times, a lot of the passport bros, we're going to destinations that a lot of passport bros have been to previously, and a lot of travelers in general. So in a lot of these spots, a lot of the people in those areas within these countries, they're kind of accustomed to dealing with Americans, Western men, and a lot of English speakers. So to some degree, especially if they're in like the like in the travel like services, such as dealing with like hotel staff and that kind of thing. um to get some of those jobs, they have to be somewhat at least familiar with like the English language. So a lot of times in the hotels and restaurants nearby, even if they don't speak necessarily fluent English, they know some conversational English, some basic phrases. um and a lot of times, even when you're communicating, like, 'cause I know a decent amount of Spanish. I wouldn't say I'm fluent, but the thing is, a lot of times when I'm communicating, you'll find out that a lot of communication is more nonverbal, if anything. So a lot of times, you don't really need to know, your vocabulary doesn't necessarily have to be that big for for you two to kind of understand one another, and have a at least a basic conversation. So that being said, you'll run into plenty of people, if anything else, especially in certain spots where, as I said before, the passport pros frequent, like for example, in Colombia, if you go to Medellin, Cali, especially Cartagena, because Cartagena is supposedly supposed to be like the big tourist destination within Colombia, where like you have foreigners coming from everywhere to that spot. So a lot of the people there, and specifically the women, they're used to dealing with a lot of English speaking, tourists and that kind of thing. So they will know like at least some basic, phrases, and be able to hold, like in many cases, probably can hold like a basic level of conversation. Me myself, I've traveled to like Rio in Brazil, and I've done like as I said before, Medellin, been to Bogota, and there's been plenty of women that I've met that at least they speak a good amount of English. Where, in my opinion, I was actually impressed. They actually, there's some words that they might not know like the biggest words, but they know enough to kind of hold a small conversation, and that kind of thing. And of course, you also got to consider that a lot of women there, as I said before, there's been passport bros before I was even born. So there's been American soldiers in some of these countries, men traveling there many times before, and as a result, a lot of these women, well, not a lot of them, but some of the women have already dated like American men. So like they're used to conversating through translators, and they used to, and just in general being with these men, they've kind of learned to pick up some English, and and kind of hold conversation. So what I'm saying is, when you go down and meet some of these women, they've already, in some cases, if they've dealt with American men, then they will have some decent amount of English skills. And of course, it always helps if on your end, before you go to these countries, that you do a little bit of studying yourself and you learn some of the language. My suggestion for a lot of people would be, there's a program called the Pimsleur method. If you don't know what that is, go to YouTube and type in Pimsleur, which is Pimsleur, and that's what I take it. I had taken. I have about and there's different levels of it. I had took the Pimsleur method for Spanish, for Portuguese, and also when I was going to Ukraine, I learned a little bit of Russian as well. and that program really helped me a whole lot, a whole lot. Um, in comparison to some of the other programs I was doing, a lot of times when I took some of the other programs, they kind of did it more so from a level of they would teach you some like the alphabet, and then they would go through building some sentences with some basic verbs and that kind of thing, like I'm going to the store, I like to go shopping, that kind of thing. I didn't really learn a whole lot when I learned that way. The thing that's different about the penciler method is it kind of does the opposite, versus you starting off from like basic alphabet and words and then progressing and then eventually learning conversational Spanish. Pimla does the opposite. It starts you off with conversational Spanish first, or whatever country you're going to. For example, in Brazil, it started off with conversational Portuguese first, and then what happens is you build upon those phrases and those words, and then they explain vocabulary, and and to add to that, they do have a portion as well when you buy it new where they actually do have like grammar sections you can go through. But either way, what I'm trying to say is that very quickly, I really feel confident about speaking, Spanish, and starting conversations and that kind of thing. Um, so yeah, I would definitely recommend that you take that program. Some people have said Duolingo, but I didn't really use Duolingo. To me, again, it just kind of reminded me of starting off very small with the alphabet and just learn little, learning what, how to say, what a dog is, un perro, and all this kind of stuff. And then later on, add the conversational. I think learning the conversational piece works a little bit better first. So that way, even if you're not that fluent, you go to the country, you can at least know some basic phrases about, how to say hi, how are you doing, have you had breakfast, where's the store, those kind of things. The other thing that I consider is that, for example, if you actually go overseas, for example, to Thailand or the Philippines, I believe in Thailand about a third of the people actually speak English there. And if you go in the Philippines, I believe it's probably about, when I was looking at the statistics, about 60%. About 60% of people there speak English, which is why when one guy asked me, he asked me the question of, should I go to the Philippines or Thailand when I go to Southeast Asia? And I told him that there's an actual saying among some of the travelers that you generally go to Thailand to kind of party, but then you go to the Philippines to actually find a wife. And reason for that is for several reasons. For one, m- you know, Christianity is very big in the Philippines versus in Thailand. What you're gonna find out is a lot of the girls there tend to be like of the Buddhist religion. So what's gonna happen is you may have trouble or issues when you get married if you're deciding to have children. It might not be that big of a deal if you don't plan on having children and it doesn't really matter. You can just do whatever. Versus if you deal with a Filipina and you're Christian, she's Christian, because Christianity is very big there, you won't have any issues. But the other big reason, which is why I brought up in this video, is that there's a lot of English speakers there versus in some of the other countries, versus in Thailand. So it's very easy start off conversations. The women there are very fluent in it. It'll be almost like talking to some degree, almost like a Native American, and I don't mean um, I guess I would just want to say, I don't mean like, you know what I mean, like Indian or whatever. So, um, yeah, so that's that. But as I said before, the other thing people have to consider is that a lot of times when some of the men are meeting these women, especially through apps, whether you use Tinder or in my case, I use a lot of times Latin American Cupid. A lot of times you're texting back and forth through your phone through the translator. So a lot of times Google is translating a lot of text anyway. So we're having very big conversations before sometimes I even meet some of the women when I'm there. And even the guys who use Tinder there, of course, like as I said before, you're using a translator. And then even when you meet some of the women, a lot of times they know some basic phrases. I have met some women that didn't really speak English at all besides, hello, how are you, that kind of thing. But that was fine because especially originally when I came, I didn't really know really any Spanish, really. I just knew some basic stuff. So a lot of times when you meet some of the women, they're curious about you, you're curious about them. And a lot of times when I started off, I just basically started off using my translator, um, asking questions to staff, that kind of thing. After a while, you kind of memorize some of the words, and then even before like I would approach a woman, I already would have what I want to say written out in my translator. And the good thing about Google is they'll actually pronounce the words for you, so you already have a sense of how to kind of say it. So in that case, after doing it several times, you kind of pick it up. So what I would say is, for people who are curious about it, like I would say when you first come to some parts of South America, so let's say you want to do cold approach, or you just want to talk to some women in general. Probably what's going to happen is maybe the first few attempts you might be a little like kind of rusty, robotic, that kind of thing. And a lot of times you kind of like, you know, put it this way, a lot of the women there, you're going to be somewhat exotic. So, and the way I always kind of do anyway is I always try to, for the most part, easiest way to kind of really approach is to kind of act like you need directions or you need some type of help, and you approach the woman and you say, "Hey, where's so and so restaurant?" And of course, if it's, at this point you don't know language, all you got to do is whip out your translator, ask for that. You'll see that they're more than happy, more than willing to kind of show you around, or show you, where the spot is. From there, you can just flirt. You can put something in a translator and just let her know, hey, I think you're really, I think you're really beautiful. I would like to, get to know you better. Maybe you can teach me some Spanish. I'll teach you some English, and you'll be surprised. The women there, like I said, really, really friendly, really, really open, especially the foreigners. They're very curious about you. And just from there, just from that, after getting the numbers from that woman or some other different women, all you do basically from there is you're texting back and forth through WhatsApp, you're communicating, you're learning Spanish, they're learning English. And it's really, really easy. It's not, a lot of people think is really difficult just because of the language barrier. Now, now I will agree that it will be easier, of course, if they did speak like your language. But to be honest with you, a lot of times there is some passport bros that say that the women that tend to be more fluent in English, they tend to want to stay away from them, versus the women who speak less English. They tend to be more cultured. They tend to be more within their culture, versus the ones that are English. Those are the ones that tend to be more like, you can see traces of American culture spilling over into their country, and they're picking up some of that. So a lot of times there's some guys that actually want to avoid those type of women. But I say that to say that it's not really difficult at all to date some of the women if they don't really speak English or not that much. They can easily learn. You'll be surprised a lot of them actually want to learn. As I stated before in some of my videos, the economies are not the best there. So getting like, heavy education, taking like English classes, these things cost like, a good deal of money. And as I said before, I believe the average person only is making about between like $200 to $500 per month or something like that. So, in those cases, they got to kind of be a little bit more like thrifty about, how they, spend their funds and that kind of thing. But a lot of them that I've met that have actually learned, what they do is they actually get the Duolingo, or they go online and they just kind of do like a self study. Where even one case when I met a girl from Brazil when I was in the States, the way she had learned, she actually got like a dictionary. She would kind of go through and look at some of the words, and she would like write it out. So a lot of times you'll find out a lot of them are kind of like self taught. I'm just like, a lot of times when I find out they kind of, learn English this way, I'm just really, really impressed. But this is probably going to be more of a shorter video, but I just kind of wanted to address the whole situation with people asking about, if you're not really able to speak the language, then like, how are you guys able to actually date? Same thing with Ukraine. I went to Ukraine there. I actually went to one of the bars there to to meet some women. I met this attractive, like, blonde woman there. She actually spoke a little bit of like a little bit of English. And what you actually find out in Ukraine is that even on the streets, what they do is they have the words in Russian, and then right under it they have it in English as well. Even in like some of the hotels and stuff like that, they'll have like at the restaurants they'll have a menu that's in like, like Russian, but then beneath it you'll see like the English words. So I'd say that they're kind of accustomed to like English people, English speakers coming to their country, and bringing business there, and even like the girls and stuff that are in those areas, they're used to being around, at least somewhat being exposed to like English speaking, people. So what I'm saying is, it's not very difficult, even with the women that don't necessarily speak your language, as long as they're interested and they're interested in dating foreigners, learning about foreigners, or learning about America, that kind of thing. And as I said before, you have the exotic factor working on your side. Some people made complaints about like Sasua and stuff like that, where there's like, oh, there's too many American people there. They kind of ruin it. The girl's not gonna be interested. Which is why I always said what you want to do then is at that point, you want to kind of go to one of the neighboring cities. Like for example, instead of Sasua, you want to go to Santo Domingo, or instead of going to Medellin, you want to go to Bogota, Santa Marta, um, you know, Cali, that kind of thing, and you'll get more of like the the full experience of being immersed in the culture, and you'll have more exotic factor because not too many foreigners go to those cities. And as I said before, you'll be surprised how open and friendly they are to like meeting foreigners, especially since you don't go there that often, and also because you're bringing business to those cities, which usually don't get that much business because everyone's going to like the big cities or whatever. So on that note, I'm going to end it with that. Um, and yeah, and so just let me know what you think in the comments. Yeah, leave your comments, subscribe to the channel, hit a thumbs up, hit that notification bell. And until next time, this is your boy, the Passport Bro Wingman, signing off.